out and get back on for audio purposes.
Yeah. Adobe has been overloaded. In fact, they totally shut down one of my talks 45 minutes into it. And then the last talk, Saturday, they said, we're down. We don't even know when we're going to be back up. So we're like scrambling. Okay, can we get a Zoom account? How quick can we pull this? Because we're going to have 300 people in there. And then the last
because I would log back in, and then it would say it was full. Like it wouldn't give me access in, and so I tried it on my phone, and then I tried it on another computer.
I'm so sorry.
But I finally got on. I was like,
That's why you didn't have. That's why it was full, because everyone was doing that
Probably
on the
everybody
computer
was,
and
like,
on their phone. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But Adobe's and Zoom's been overloaded too, and pretty much every online meeting communication video platform has been just crashing.
Right.
Or soaring, or both.
Right.
All right, you guys ready?
One, the Cubase red dots.
And scroll down, make sure the one down below is off. Okay.
That one's off.
Yeah, good.
Very good. Okay. Whenever you're ready, one. You demand.
Warning, the Catholic Man Show contains high levels of manliness. If you think you may be too weak to withstand the manliness represented in the following program, please do yourself a favor and stop listening now. If you choose to continue in spite of this warning, if at any time you feel yourself overcome by the manliness, stop immediately and consult your closest medical professional. And now, for the not-so-fair, faint, or frilly, we present The Catholic Man Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Catholic Man Show. We are on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass. Adam and Ann here, sitting with David Niles on my right. On my left is our good friend Andrew Pudewa from IEW.com, Institute of Excellence in Writing, Institute for Excellence in Writing.
You got it.
Yes.
Some people, I think, are confused. Is it excellence in writing or excellence and writing?
It's excellence in writing.
In writing.
Right.
For
Right.
excellence in writing.
Because you want to be excellent in it.
Yes.
I see, because I
also just want
Juan
to be excellent.
Posada, his title is an excellence champion. That's what he is at work. He's an excellence champion. So it's like excellence now is a noun that you can have. Well, it's been a noun, but it's something. Maybe it's a verb.
If you say excellence champion,
can you help me with my language?
Then it's operating like an adjective.
Adjectives, those are the words.
And excellence champion, but it's also a reconstruction of a champion for excellence.
Right.
He's promoting excellence is what he's doing.
Yeah, so people, I think, is like, oh, are they teaching excellence and writing?
Well, indirectly, yes.
Right.
But our primary focus is excellence in writing.
In writing.
And all the other excellence is just bonus.
Yeah.
What you would know if you subscribe to our email database, because we sent out an email that Andrew is giving away
$1,000. Oh, sorry. Something else. Sorry. That's the government. Yeah, I forgot.
free courses is what he's giving. He's giving away 3 weeks worth of free courses for third grade and above. Is that correct?
Yep, all the way up. Approximately third grade.
And,
all the way up.
all
the way.
All the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
How high does it go?
Well, as high as you need it to, honestly. Through, school age.
I'm in the 37th grade.
You
Most
passed
of my
it?
classmates have dropped out.
Yeah, I can't believe you passed.
Well, I'm
You
still
got
in
there.
the 37th
Oh,
grade.
Yeah, well, you don't have to pass a grade to go to the next grade these days.
Apparently,
You just,
that's
you
true.
just
My
go
mom
on.
told me that she's a 6th grade teacher, and you don't have to necessarily pass 6th grade to get to 7th grade any longer.
Yeah, it's
Just
a
a
different world.
little absurd, I thought.
It's
but
like a rite of passage.
I guess.
You just experienced 6th grade, and so now you get to go experience 7th grade.
Well, once upon a time, grade level meant achievement. but now it means approximate age. So
that's accurate.
You
yeah.
just go into whatever grade according to when you
Your
were
age.
born, not whether you learned stuff before that or not.
Which honestly I think is bigoted, because that you just assume that someone's year of birth defines them like that. You know what I mean? That how dare you?
Well, it's
School
ageism
system.
at its worst.
It's ageism. That's right. Another adjective.
And if you extrapolate out the current circumstances, people should have the freedom to define their own age.
That is exactly, I'm pretty sure, what I was saying.
Yeah.
Really?
Boom.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you're 14, but
That's why
you
it's
identify as an 18-year-old,
You should be a senior.
you should be able to drive.
Why
Yeah,
not? Yeah.
Absolutely. And, if you're almost 60 and you identify as a 30-year-old, you should live an extra 50 years.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm a scratch golfer.
Because you identify. as one?
I identify as a scratch golfer anyway.
So this evening I'm
Me-
going
me
to break this.
Me and Kim
this train.
Jong-un, we're both.
I'm going to break this train of thought and jump into our next
Both
topic.
of our golfing ability comes from the same place.
Our drink this evening, Dave.
Yes,
Focus.
I'm very excited about
Focus. Focus. This is something we haven't had on the show very often, which is a Japanese whiskey.
it. And the Japanese make killer whiskey.
They think they do. They definitely do think so.
Yeah, I think that they do.
Well, then they
I'm
must be right.
Japanese.
You look so Japanese.
It's called Sensei. It's a Sensei whiskey. I mean,
That's racist.
I mean, because we basically think that, at least I do. I think Andrew Pudewa is like my sensei, basically in some
true.
homeschooling.
That's true.
A lot of the ideas that I've come up with, or not that I've used in the home, have been from you. Like, I don't know, you didn't see it maybe downstairs, but I have 2 whiteboards now that are pretty good size right next to my dining room table.
Great.
That we use.
He had one before I did, but I just want to say that I had a good one before he did. Okay.
Well, you learn from each other, and that's
true.
what it's all
That's
about.
true. Yeah.
Sensei, though, is the term. Essentially, the characters mean born before. So I was born before you. Doesn't mean I'm any smarter, but
You definitely are.
it
just
is.
for the
It
record.
is the term. It's the honorific term that is used for teacher as well as doctor in Japan.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
So
they
it's
would-
interesting.
Do they call doctors sensei?
If they would address them, yeah, sensei.
Nice.
So that is kind of neat that in Japan they honor teachers and doctors kind of equally, at least in their language.
That is.
Yeah, the role of a teacher really is profound.
And Japanese whiskey has, like, within the last about 5 to 8 years have really soared in the market. They've really made a name for themselves. When some of the whiskey was
Hibiki.
Hibiki, was really.
And
really made a
this
big
is
deal.
maybe trying to say it's for your, upper educated class. It's maybe older, therefore more refined.
I hope so. We shall see.
Okay.
Let's try.
All
We're on
right.
the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
One of the things, well, I'll let you smell it, but one of the things that's interesting about us all being quarantined now and being in the home is that we've had to probably start traditions within the family. That maybe some that you haven't thought about, or some that you wanted to, or you've always thought about, but you haven't had the opportunity to. And now that you're home, you're not at work, you have the opportunity to do so. And one of the things that my dad has always wanted to do, we were talking about this weekend, was he wanted to take the guys out for a fishing trip. My boys love fishing. They are big fish, like they love fishing. They actually like catching. I don't know how much they like fishing, but they love catching.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
The love of fishing comes later,
I think so as well.
where you like throw an unbaited hook in the water
And just
so
open
you
it-
can sit
open
there.
it and just enjoy the peace and
What are
quiet.
you doing? Fishing.
Yeah.
And talk.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to. We're planning a guys fishing trip that he's always wanted to do every year, but we haven't had a
This is
chance.
your father.
My father has. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so
Great.
we're gonna
Because
plan
we did that growing up. We
Right.
used to go on, my dad and me and Adam's dad and him. We used to go a couple times we floated the Illinois River fishing.
Mm-hmm. And canoes.
Actually, some really funny stories. We'll later, just if you know his dad, just picturing him in the back of a canoe.
Great. So this is cultivating third-generation fishermen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam's paddle couldn't reach the water
because it was like we were like like this.
It's like a 45-degree angle
because the weight was in the back of the boat,
canoe rising out of the water.
Guys are in the front and their paddles.
And I'm like trying to get my oar touching the water,
reaching down. I'm trying, Dad.
But he's like, whoosh, he's creating this huge wake in the back, and
I think we were paddling downstream, and I think Mr. Minahan actually reversed the flow of the Illinois River for a while with a couple strokes.
Wow.
It's pretty epic. You think I'm making that up? That's true story. True story.
I believe you.
Yeah.
What do you think about the whiskey?
Very smooth. Very smooth. It's got some fruit, like maybe apples.
The aroma isn't too strong at all. I mean,
It's a very light aroma. You're right. You can really put your nose in the glass.
Yeah,
there's some kind of like cinnamony, nutmeggy, a little spicy side to it. Sweet. It's sweeter than some.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me. Japanese whiskey tends to be more, in general, tends to be more like a Scotch than it does a bourbon. But this one reminds me a lot more of bourbon than Scotch.
Yeah, it's not a very long finish either. It's very smooth. I mean, I think this bottle was about a $35 bottle, so it's not too expensive.
Yeah.
In fact, it's on the cheaper end of especially Japanese whiskey.
Because Japanese whiskey
can get expensive.
Usually it starts at $60.
It can get
in
expensive.
that range.
But for $35, it's not a bad whiskey. I don't think. I mean, it's smooth. It's pretty easy to drink. There's not a whole lot of flavor. Like it's not going to be overpowering of oak. It's not overpowering of honey or citrus or floral or anything like that. It's just a nice sipping whiskey, I think.
And you just found it here in Tulsa?
Yes, at Park Hill South.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's two different ways to spell whiskey. I know we've mentioned this on the show, but you're not allowed to spell whiskey with an EY at the end unless you're a Scotch. Like that's one of the things that they claimed a long time ago. So bourbon whiskey is just SKY.
No,
I never knew that.
Bourbon whiskey is SKEY.
Am I getting this backwards?
Yes.
Because this is EY, and so
that's correct.
So they're doing it differently from the other Japanese whiskey.
So Scotch typically does without the E.
Okay.
And Canadian whiskey also does without the E.
Do they?
Yes. But bourbon and most Japanese whiskeys.
Is that aged in barrels?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a bourbonish.
Yes, I mean Scotches as well, aged in barrels, but
well, that makes sense because this tastes more like bourbon, and so they're spelling it like a bourbon. I was getting it backwards at first.
A spelling lesson today.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, no kidding. Whiskey can teach you to spell.
Yeah. Anyway, we're here with Andrew Pudewa from IEW. We're going to talk about homeschooling. I know a lot of guys are trying to figure out how to homeschool in their family right now with all the kids, so we're going to jump into that topic when we get back. We'll be right back. The outro was really loud. Yes.
So
Okay.
these are I put the original intro and outro.
I can't hear you on that. You can plug it in, but oh well.
This is the original one, so I think it.
Oh, it
since I've
hasn't
been using
saved.
it in a while.
Is this your
We have
gear for tonight?
No, but this is what I busted this out last week because we
were smoking our
were
pipes
smoking our pipes
Right.
last
inside.
week, yeah.
But it's a pretty nice pipe holder, don't you think?
Beautiful.
I
think
smoked
it's
my pipe today.
Customized like that?
customized with our logo on it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
you
I did
carve
that.
that
I did
yourself?
that with
No.
a tiny pocket knife.
no,
Yeah.
you did not.
No, you can order
did
people
not.
who have little machines that do that. Yeah,
Yes.
it's very stylish. You could raffle one of those off.
Uh-huh.
Like people could buy $10 raffle tickets to win that.
We don't have another one.
Oh,
We have to give that
That's-
one away.
well, you could get
I could
another
probably.
one.
Yeah, we definitely could.
We could.
But just think.
That's a good idea, actually.
People.
I think
say,
people would probably do it.
Hey,
Yeah.
this $10 goes to a great because
Mhm.
and there's a chance I could have that awesome one of a
Yeah.
kind thing.
This pipe right here is my grandfather's pipe.
Really?
Yes, he used to smoke pipes, and before he passed away, he gave me all of his pipes. And so anyway, that's like a super awesome.
Good.
Like,
Wow. Hope he
for
didn't
me.
pass away from throat cancer.
he did not.
Okay.
He did not. Although he did smoke cigarettes for a long time, but he quit.
But that was back before they were bad for you.
Correct.
Because they didn't used to be bad for you. And then
they
Reader's Digest had to go and ruin it for everybody. And
well,
thanks a lot.
It did well for the pipe and cigar business among the, young health-conscious men of today.
Of the
That's
time.
true.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's keep going.
Ready for homeschooling?
Yes, let's do that. You're awesome, Juan.
Well, these 20-minute segments just fly by, don't they?
They fly by.
Excuse me.
You are?
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan and Andrew Pudewa, the sensei of words. So this week, coming up, well, let me just put it this way. Holy Week is coming up. Okay, this Holy Week is going to be a lot different from other Holy Weeks because all the stuff that we usually do, we're not going to be doing.
Yeah.
So,
At least in church.
in the church, right. So we need to think about this and be intentional. Make sure we have a plan for Holy Week because it's a big week. So,
Regardless if you're able to go to the church or not.
right. So, like one thing I was thinking about is on Thursday, I am going to wash all of my family's feet.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
Just doing stuff like that where we can take the stuff that happens in the church and do them.
Yeah.
Do the same things in our domestic churches. And as the priest of my domestic church, it's my job. So that's something that I'm going to do. And this is a great opportunity. Like, it's one thing to take your kids to the Last Supper, third service, Mass, where they, on Thursdays of Holy Week,
Thursday,
Holy Thursday, thank you. And, they'll wash the feet, and you can talk to your kids like, oh, see how Father's.
And go through the Seder meal and things like
Yeah, stuff like that. But if you actually tell your children, take off your shoes and your socks, I'm going to wash your feet, like that is a lesson in a much, much more powerful way. So I think I just want to, this is like my David PSA, think about Holy Week, make a plan.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Because everything you do, you said earlier, traditions, creating traditions.
Yeah.
And before the show, we were talking about culture and how we have, the big culture of the world, the books, the movies, the music, the stuff of life, the podcasts. But then we have a corporate culture, and that we have control over. We can't control the books and the movies and all that. That's just going to exist. We can filter it, but we can't control it. We do, in our home, have that corporate culture. And something like that is doing. And then the whole word culture takes on so much richer meaning when you think about the Petri dish definition, right? So there's analogous meaning. So the Petri dish, you remember like 7th grade, 8th grade, you had that little bowl of yellow Jell-O.
Yeah.
And you would put stuff in, and then if the culture was good, the stuff would grow. If the culture is not good, the stuff doesn't grow. So the question we all have is, what do we want to grow, and what culture do we create that helps us grow that? And I think your example of intentionality about Holy Week is tremendous, because that's corporate culture, hopefully growing faith.
Right. Yeah. And the culture is going to grow something, like that Petri dish.
Yeah.
There's something will grow in it. So it's
it may
up
be
to
mold.
us. Well, right.
It may be bad.
And in 7th grade, you were probably trying to get a certain mold to grow, whatever it is. So something will grow.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to, by our intentionality, hopefully decide what it is that grows. Not that we have absolute control over that, but, we can, we have, as fathers of the house, we have the largest influence.
Yeah.
So,
if you think about kind of history of Christendom, for a very, very long time, there was kind of this order of things, and it went like this. The church, that was the ultimate authority. Kings were under the church.
right.
All of education operated under the authority of the church. Education would then produce people. People would then create culture. And in a properly ordered system, the culture they would create would nurture the faith. It would support the church. It would support the mission.
It's a circle.
Yes. And so, you think 1,000 years ago, there's really no market for bad books. There was no market for bad music. There's no market for bad art or architecture or pornography. Or nobody wanted it. Why? Because most people were in this faith, education, culture, faith. But probably a side effect of the Reformation. Education became unhinged. It came out from under the authority of faith. And, it took a while because, you even look at Harvard, Yale, Princeton. What were they originally?
Protestant.
Well, they were Protestant, but they were, quote, schools of divinity. They were designed to raise Christian leaders of a Christian people. But now what are they?
Yeah, even TU, Tulsa University here in town.
Mm-hmm.
It's technically, well, I don't know. Technically it's not anymore, but it was Presbyterian.
Mm-hmm. But the schools now have no authority over them. They are an authority to themselves. And so they create people who have no purpose in their culture except self-aggrandizement, self-esteem, self-expression, let's just do weird stuff so we can get people to look at us. And so the whole culture is messed up because we've lost the authority.
Yeah, it's
of faith
disordered
over
education.
Yeah, it is. It's a disordering of everything. Which brings us to the topic of what happens when the schools aren't there.
Yeah.
And I think...
You know what? I think that we are all going to see what happens if the schools aren't there. Wow, it got a lot better. Well, that's not going to be everyone's experience.
No, right. And no. I think there may be a lot of guys out there, families, husbands and wives that are a little panicky right now. I'm trying to figure out, my world's been turned upside down. Normally I'm not having to worry about my children's education as far as I normally take them to school and they're learning. And now I'm having to do that, make sure that they're doing it at home. Mm-hmm. And I think that, Andrew, I'd like to get your opinion on this, but I think what Dave was talking about just earlier was he was made a plan for Holy Week. He had he's already thought about it. He has a plan in place. And I think the first step that you need to do, possibly, in order to, be constructive in this homeschooling, is make a plan. Mm-hmm. Let's make a plan and let's initiate this plan and let's follow through with this plan.
Right.
If you don't have a plan and you're just trying to wing it every single day, things get a little crazy.
Well, they do, and you don't necessarily have the experience of being at home all day, every day with your kids.
Yeah.
But you're not going to work because you're working at home or you got furloughed. Your kids are not going to school. Nobody's really going anywhere. So yes, what will you do with the time? So it's a double-edged thing there because, oh no, we have all this time, we have to figure out what to do. But on the other hand, we have all this time we never had before. What can we do? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of exciting.
And but it could be overwhelming. I get to see, I listened to your lecture this last week, which I highly recommend. You go to IEW.com.
Is that the website, IEW.com?
Yeah, we have IEW.com.
Will that get you there?
That'll get you there. You can search for our webinars.
Yes.
That are there. I have a podcast myself called Arts of Language, and a lot of good free information all over there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's phenomenal. And one of the things you said, or one of the things that I resonated with, was there's a lot of guys that are like, I don't know where even to begin. They kind of get overwhelmed, and they think that they have to do everything.
Right.
They have to. Oh, I got to do math, English. All these languages, band. I have to do everything.
I got to do school at home.
At home.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And you made a great point. You're saying no. We don't have to do all of that. And I'll let you talk about that.
Well, in a way, a good curriculum is simple. Mm-hmm. Things can be simple but effective. And so you set your priorities. One thing that a lot of people have been, I think, experiencing the opportunity for, you mentioned it, you're out fishing, right? Mm-hmm. I have seen so many families outside.
Me too.
In the middle of the day.
Walking.
3 o'clock on a weekday.
I've seen more people taking walks.
Families riding bikes, shooting hoops, like a middle-aged mom with her 2 teenage boys shooting hoops at 3 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon. This is not something you normally see. And kids playing. And it seems that there is this opportunity just to get outside And of course, it's spring, so we're
Yeah,
blessed with
beautiful weather.
really good weather, at least here.
Yeah.
And that's something that is probably the most important thing to capitalize on with the time is, can we just get outside? I have a talk. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's off our website. You can get it there. It's called Nature Deficit Disorder, which I actually just stole the title from a book called Nature Deficit Disorder. And I gave a talk about that book and then some of my own experience and how, kids today, they're just buried in screens and work and activities and busyness. Well, this can be, in a way, kind of a release from all that. So, one priority, get outside. And then you just look at the 3 R's, Whoever said that couldn't spell, because reading is R.
Writing.
And writing is W. And arithmetic is A. But I don't know, RWA just doesn't sound as good as, the 3 R's. But honestly, if you read a little bit every day, you write a little bit every day, and you do some math so you don't forget how to divide fractions or whatever,
Yeah.
you will maintain your intellectual engagement. And you can do that actually in a fraction of the time that the schools require to do that same stuff.
That's one thing that we have learned homeschooling our kids is that we can get through the lesson before 11 a.m. hits. We can get all of our work done.
Yeah.
And we have breakfast in the morning, things like that, so we don't start at 8 a.m., but we can get done before 11 a.m. And then our boys have the opportunity to go outside and play in the mud and hit each other with sticks, which they've been doing a lot of.
Yeah.
And
That's a great game.
Yeah, a sword. They've been playing with swords, and they've made their own shield out of cardboard with a handle on it. They have a handle cardboard shield, so they've been playing gladiators.
And if you did that in a school that has a zero tolerance to weapons and violence,
right,
they'd be suspended.
Right.
Then they could come home and do it anyway.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But we've learned that by homeschooling, we've been able to accomplish the same things that other kids have had to do from 8 to 3. We've been able to do maybe from 9 to 11.
Yeah.
And then we've had
especially in the younger grades.
Especially in the
Yeah.
younger.
grades, yeah.
And so then we have the opportunity of taking them, outside, let them explore, let them do kid things.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun.
I mean, in kindergarten, they spend all the day coloring and stuff. That's what do you think they're doing at home? Coloring. So.
All right, we'll be right back.
Andrew, if you could speak more into the mic.
Okay.
Or maybe angle it a little bit
I keep
more.
looking at Adam here.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
That's better.
have you ever heard of onlinegreatbooks.com?
I have, yeah.
The owner of that, his name is Scott Hambrick.
Uh-huh.
We had him on the show a while back.
Awesome.
And he gave, I didn't want to do this on the show because I wanted to ask your opinion on it, but he told us that he actually unschooled his kids.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled them out of a very well-known private school that, preparatory school. He pulled them out because he wasn't pleased with how things were going, and basically unschooled his kids.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they wanted to learn, that's what they did that day. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
is that something that we could talk about or how do you feel?
I like to define the word unschooling as kind of de-schooling. It's where you go through a detox period and you come out of the system and you say, okay, we're not going to do all that for a while. We're just going to do some other stuff, and why don't you participate in deciding, what do you want to do? How would you like to spend your time? There's definitely 2 schools of thought, and one is, a curriculum is necessary. You've got to have a plan. You can't just wing it and improv every day and follow a child doesn't know what they should know. They don't love what they should love necessarily.
Yeah.
So we have to teach them how to love what they should love. So, that's one position.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is, well, for a lot of history, kids didn't necessarily go to school, and then they grew up into adults and had great lives. Many of them became saints. And so it's not as though school really, that the curriculum is the key. I would say that in retrospect, having young children, all grown up now, all my children are grown up, in retrospect, academics is possibly the least important thing about growing up. things like who are their friends, what are they passionate about, what kind of exciting opportunities did they get to do along the way, how much freedom did they have to pursue a passion if they could find one. What happens though with a lot of kids is they just get so cynical. So by the time they get to middle school, they're like, well, nobody cares what I want to do, and I don't ever have time to do what I want to do, so I guess I really don't want to do anything at all, except just play the game and try to get good grades and keep my parents happy and hurry up and grow up.
Yeah.
Chills, it's so real.
I mean, that is
so.
accurate.
I mean, we could talk about that idea of unschooling.
Seems like you would have to have a child with the right temperament, and certainly a parent with the right temperament.
Yeah.
In order for that to be successful, that could go wrong.
You know, I think I have a kind of simplified model for curriculum, which is the character, knowledge, skills. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you caught that on the talk, where you can say, yes, these are our subjects, these are our priorities. Within that, we have a lot of freedom. And I do think as kids get older, it's more important they have time to pursue their interests. We actually do it opposite. We tell little kids, do whatever you want, and then as they get older and they get into high school, here's the entire transcript that you must accomplish.
Right, here's your life for the next 4 years.
Otherwise, you will never get to college. You'll fail miserably and be poor and broke and stupid your whole life, which is just not true at all.
So, like we're homeschooling, and I feel like certainly here in the early years, kindergarten, pre-K homeschooling, there's a lot of people out there who are very concerned about getting the perfect curriculum.
Yeah.
Like it exists. Like, well, I took part of this one and part of this one. And it's like, it's great that if people are out there, feeling like, oh, hey, I'm just going to take what's good about different things and put it together. I mean, I think that's a good thing to do.
Sure.
But sometimes I think people are worried,
Yeah.
that as if, what's wrong with my homeschooling? The curriculum isn't perfect.
Well, much as schools have become their own authority, curriculum and academics have become kind of a god.
Yeah, tracking.
So, we have the gods of the SAT and the ACT, and their lesser minions, the Iowa Basics, and all curriculum and transcripts must be conforming to this.
Right.
And it's really a form of idolatry.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think, like, when you're really young, just, spend time with your kids.
Have you read anything by Charlotte Mason?
Is she the one who said just take him outside for 6 hours a day?
Not quite. But she was very relaxed about academics,
Yeah.
particularly with young children. Nature and a natural, nature study approach to science. Very in favor of waiting until children show readiness for reading and writing, which I totally agree with. And filling their world with beauty and goodness through literature and art and music. So, I mean, you would really, I think, appreciate reading some of Charlotte Mason's stuff. It's a little series of books called Home Education.
Nice.
And
I think my wife has read some, and she's told me about it because I know of her.
Yeah.
But I haven't read any of her stuff.
Yeah. But so there's a lot of directions we can go.
Before we keep going, I just wanted to ask your opinion on this. We were talking about this when I was a kid. I had 2 imaginary friends, okay, because I was above average. And it occurred to me, like, I wonder, this would be an interesting study if the rate of child imaginary friendhood has decreased with the increase of technology. If kids now are more so entertained with phones that very few of them have, it never occurs to them to have an imaginary friend.
Yeah, there was an NPR show on this very subject.
Really?
Maybe 3 weeks ago.
No kidding.
You might be able to find it.
Okay.
And just that exact thing that you said, which is a lot of children do not these days have that same imaginary friend tendency because they have these artificial imaginary friends. But, if you don't have entertainment, what must you do?
Right.
Make it.
You make it. You have to exercise your imagination.
Yeah.
That's why boredom can be a really healthy and good thing for children.
Totally. Okay, well, I'm really glad I asked because that's...
Yeah, no, see if you... This NPR show is fascinating. I just stumbled onto it. I was driving to the office, and I sat in the parking lot listening to it because it was so interesting about that. And, you know, some parents get worried. Oh, no, imaginary friend, is this a psychosis thing?
Yeah.
And so from one side, they were saying, no, it's totally normal. It's happened throughout all history, but it's happening less because... So, yeah, you hit something there.
I knew I was a genius. I knew it.
I like what you were talking about, knowledge, character, and
Skills.
Yeah. You think we can focus on that?
Yeah.
Just to have a...
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need when we come back, the idea is, okay, I now have my kids at home. What, and we've kind of laid out, we need to have a plan.
Right.
What is the plan? What do we need to do?
Exactly.
And I think that's where we should pick up.
focus.
Especially for people who aren't planning on homeschooling, but
Right, but
they are filling the gap,
Yeah.
or whatever you call it.
And I've got some interesting recent conversations and insights on the whole character side in terms of living through unusual times, or
Okay.
hard times. So-
Okay, good.
Sweet.
Good job, Juan.
Way to go, Juan. Haircut, Juan.
It's my own haircut one.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sitting here with Andrew Pudewa, Juan on the buttons, doing a great job. I was gonna say as always, but I can't say that in charity. I'm telling you, not as always.
Mostly, though.
Mostly,
Like,
most of the time.
Like, mostly.
Right. So, Andrew, before the break, we were kind of diving into, okay, we now have kids at home. There are parents here who are saying, I'm not normally a homeschooling family.
Yeah.
I am forced now into accidental homeschooling.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about before the break, we need to have a plan in place. They're like, okay, I want to have a plan in place. What the heck is this plan? Where do I start?
Right.
What,
And if you try to recreate all the subjects that the school tries to teach at home, you go crazy, especially if you have a few kids, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you got 3 grade levels and 6 subjects and 18 things to think about, and it's fragmenting. It's disintegrating to the psyche of the poor mom and dad who are trying to navigate. And, you know, I've been at this a long time, and I finally thought, okay, how can we simplify curriculum and still have focus and organization? How do we prioritize? Because that's what focus and organization are all about. We've got time. How do we best use the time? So I came up with this model really for my wife, because she actually has a degree in elementary education.
okay.
So she's even more of this mindset, like I have to do everything with everyone at all these grade levels. And I know, we had 7 children, not all of them home at the same time, but at least, 4 or 5 most of the time. And so I thought, okay, let's simplify. 3 things to think about. You can handle 3. Character, knowledge, skills. There's your course of study.
Yeah.
So character, well, what is that? That's the stuff that helps you be a better person. It's wisdom and virtue. It's being cultivated with goodness, truth, and beauty. It's going to be probably the most important thing you do at home with your kids. I said to you during the break, in retrospect, all my kids are grown. My youngest is 20, and I've got 14 grandchildren. And in retrospect, I think, academics was probably the least important thing about growing up. There were so many more important, valuable things. Only it's easy to get caught up and worried about the academics. Because as we were talking, you just worry about, oh no, SATs and ACT and college and,
Right.
all that. So, okay, character. What can you do to develop character? Find some people to help out. Find someone who needs some help. The old lady who needs her lawn raked, and go over as a family and do it. You've got time now. Probably of greatest significance is the books, right? The stories that you bring into the lives of children, because those books, more than anything, expand the life experience of all of us, right? You can't meet enough people and do enough different things in your life to learn everything you'd like to learn about people and life. But you can read books that compress all of that and put it directly into your mind and heart. So reading out loud to the family in huge quantity, books that inspire, books that have good character. And I'm thinking, and I tell you, I did a Facebook post on this, and I have never got such an incredible response from a Facebook post. This is by far the biggest thing that I have ever done. And all I did was I said, I woke up this morning thinking we need to read our children more stories about children living through hard times in history. Things like, The Hiding Place, or movies like Cinderella Man.
Yeah. Or The Lives of the Saints.
Absolutely, The Lives of the Saints. These stories of people, both fictional and biographical, of people lived through wars, lived through famines, lived through persecutions. That stuff makes what we're going through right now look
nothing.
And we're all like, oh no, economic collapse, and the whole world's never going to be the same again. And I mean, we have no clue. So I got over 125 comments of people suggesting these various books. Some are good for younger children and older children.
That is a lot.
I'm actually compiling this list of all these suggestions, because a lot of them I hadn't heard of, and a lot of them were, wow, that's a good one. I forgot about that one. I'm going to compile it into a blog post and put that out shortly.
Oh, great.
But that would be the first thing, is do things, service to other people, finding out how can you help, reaching out, and then the stories of people who've made it through tough times, character. And that probably is the most important, subject, if you want to call it that, or area or domain of education.
I think it's so funny because, Dave, you and I have talked about this before on the show, but, as a father, our 3 stages is protect, provide, and establish. Yeah. Establishing being the most important. If you're going to provide and protect, but you don't establish them to yearn for the true, the good, and the beautiful, the protecting and providing really don't mean a whole lot.
The reason you protect and provide is so that you can establish.
Yeah. And you go at it from the academic or from the homeschooling aspect of, let's start with almost the establishing first. Let's start with the quality of person first. Let's start with that person, not the academic part, but the character of that person first before everything else, and then everything else kind of trickles down.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if you're educating, it kind of is under the assumption that you're safe and you're eating,
right.
But I think, Andrew, you have the best definition of education that I've ever come across. And a talk I went to a long time ago, it's like maybe the first time I met you, was that the purpose of education is to form the appetites of the person, to desire the true, the good, and the beautiful.
Yeah.
And that has always really stuck with me, that is what education is for. It's not to fill the head with knowledge. It's to form the person. Mm-hmm. And so this character building that you're talking about, this is at the very heart of education, because if we're not forming people, then we're wasting our time.
Right. And one of the great things about having kids at home and a family at home is you can read these things, together. Mm-hmm. You can read out loud to the whole family and have conversations about this, and then it becomes a shared cultural point of view that's going to cultivate what you're hoping for. Knowledge, of course, is important, but here's the funny thing. I think all of us go through school and we learn a little bit about a whole lot of things, and then it kind of evaporates. So
right.
we end school thinking, well, I know almost nothing about everything.
You're right. And the only thing you learn is how to take a test.
Yeah, and then you let it go.
Right.
Whereas if you can learn, as we tend to do as adults, we tend to go a little deeper and start to want to learn more about something that truly interests us. And that's when the real learning starts, whether it's theology, and you guys are very well versed there, or something that comes to your profession, or an interest in a particular kind of narrower area of history, and you just want to keep learning and going deep. What I've noticed is if you can go deep into knowledge, then you still have evaporation, but you've got some left over. So then something about something rather than almost nothing about everything.
Right.
And it's a better deal.
Yeah. Well, there have been times where I've learned things, and later on, it's like, well, I don't remember why this is true, but I do remember like the end, because if you're going deep, 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 I don't remember maybe the stuff in the beginning, but I remember at the end when we got there to like this deep truth, that stuck with me. Maybe I don't remember how to get there, but I do remember that this is true. Yeah. This one other thing. I can't support it with some of the base, but...
One of the freeing things about thinking about knowledge is it's infinite.
Right?
That's
true.
So you can't know everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So all you have to do is learn something. Mm-hmm. I was used to think education would have been so much easier 1,000 years ago. There was a whole lot less history. There's just a fraction of the literature.
Right.
There was much less science.
Uh-huh.
But that's not even true, right? I mean, it's infinite.
Right.
It always has been infinite.
Philosophy was the same. Yeah.
Oh, no. We have the modern philosophy.
Well, that's just trash.
Oh, it doesn't qualify.
Right, yeah.
So in any case, that idea that it's okay to learn things together and go deeper and not worry about trying to learn everything that everybody says you have to. Mm-hmm. And then you can choose. You can prioritize. Do I want to learn about the history of the church? Do I want to learn about the history or government of the country? This is a particularly good time. Do I want to learn about socialist countries in the past 150 years? This could be a very good time to study something like that.
Maybe
right?
you could use the check you get from the government to buy a course on socialism for your children.
Yeah, you probably couldn't buy one. You just have to. Probably most of the good stuff is free, honestly.
Yeah.
And then, so character, knowledge, and then skills. Now, I kind of cheated here. I said that was one thing, but it's actually two. It divides into two parts. Mm-hmm. Language skills and math skills. And then kind of the corpus callosum between
Because you can't be good at both.
is the, logic, right?
Okay.
So, what's language? Well, it's grammar and logic and rhetoric, and it's writing and speaking and reading and all of that stuff, but you can think about it much more organically, right?
Okay.
And then math skills, of course, we walk a path of learning math. And probably the most important thing is to maintain what you know and keep doing it so it gets easier and faster and you get more confident. You hear people say, I hate math, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody hates math. You can't hate math. Math is intrinsically beautiful. What we hate is not being able to do it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, 3 things to think about. Character. What are you doing to develop that in kids? Knowledge. Learn stuff. And skills. Language skills, math skills. And we'll help you with the language stuff at IEW.com.
Okay, so when we get back, we'll jump into the skills part.
Okay.
And like pragmatically, how do we do that in the home?
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. Good. If he said that doesn't sound good, this last segment would be really awkward.
I thought you only had 3.
Then we got one more. So we're good.
I thought there was 3.
So we're good.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right
And
back.
there's no gear.
No gear today.
Oh,
No
yeah.
gear.
Not today. Hang on.
Gosh, you better
Okay.
tell people. They're going to be like, where's the gear?
Well, I know, but I kind of jumped. We kind of got. I jumped into it because I was just so ready to talk about the topic that we didn't go with the gear today
Okay.
because there's a lot to talk about with homeschool, and people are freaking out right now trying to figure out how to homeschool their kids.
Yeah. I
mean, so here's a question for you. Even the families who do homeschool,
mm-hmm.
like for instance, like our family, my wife, she does most of the math and reading,
mm-hmm.
Before, like while I'm gone to work. When I get back, I try to handle more of the religion and logic, trying to make them think, abstractly, or even like puzzles, things like that, how to think.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because dads are home,
They can be a lot more involved.
they can be a lot more involved. So how do we take maybe some of the burden off of our wives? Like, how do we? You don't want, because you don't want to. It's a sensitive subject. You don't want to intrude because she has a rhythm. She has a
Right.
a set idea of here's how we organize the home. But you don't want to intrude, but you also want to help. So
Yeah. Probably one thing is just take the younger kids off her for a while.
Yeah,
And give her freedom to work with the older kids in a less distracted area. Another thing dads can do with almost no preparation or lesson planning kind of activity is just read to the whole family, and just do more of that. I mean, if you could read a whole hour a day to your family, you would accomplish so much. And then, dads have, the particular aptitude for just the physical stuff.
Right.
More of the wrestling and going fishing and
we talk about how strong Dad is all the time at our house.
Yeah.
I don't even prompt it. It just like
I was out with my 4-year-old granddaughter pushing her on the swing, and she goes, "My dad can pick up me and Sienna." No, my dad can pick up Aiden and me and Sienna and his shotgun.
There's a shotgun in there.
So, well, they live out in the country, and so there's been, I guess, because there was so much rain, there were a lot of frogs. Because there's so many frogs, there's a lot of snakes, and he runs cattle out there on the property. So he's basically been carrying around a shotgun and shooting snakes. And get this, he takes the dead snake, waste not, want not. He takes the dead snake, chops it up, and feeds it to the chickens.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
brilliant.
Then she just goes, "My dad is so strong." That is the perfect thing for a 4-year-old girl.
Yeah. She needs to know that Dad is strong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did that I absolutely love, and I did this. I don't know. You know what I'm gonna say? So the song Queen, "We Are the Champion."
Mm-hmm.
I substituted "We Are the Champion" for "Dad is the Champion," my friends, and Dad will keep fighting till the end.
Yes.
And so when that song plays, I always sing a little louder and make sure Dad is over it.
Hey, let's be sure and save a little bit of time before the end and talk about music.
Okay.
In the home.
Okay.
Because that is a key part of the curriculum.
John Sr. would agree.
Yeah.
I just
Pretty
read
much,
another.
Yeah, every smart person would agree.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he did.
Like a 5-minute instead of a 2.
Yeah, give us a 5-minute, but make sure you wave because you're no longer right in front of us, so I don't really see you any longer.
I've just been looking at me.
Right,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's the only one angled at you, so
Find something to throw at him. Not
Dave,
me. Not me.
I need to get this,
Dave and I aren't looking at you any longer,
the lights. Yeah, you're right.
so
Don't look at me.
don't look.
Okay,
But-
let's do it.
So it's awesome because they go around singing "Dad is the champion." It's
Yeah.
that was one of the best moves that I've made.
That is a good move.
Dad hack.
Dad. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan and Andrew Pudewa. Some people have called him the sensei of words. We're drinking some sensei whiskey imported from the land of Japan, the land of tomorrow. And we're talking about homeschooling. We're talking about education,
Maybe you're accidentally homeschooling now.
Yeah.
what to do at home right now. And so, I forget where we left off, but
Skills.
Yeah, we're
Skills.
talking about character.
Nunchuck skills, bow
Yeah.
hunting skills.
Yeah.
We're talking about real skills.
Yeah. Well, within kind of the academic zone,
Okay. Yes.
and I would in no way discount the importance of the bow hunting skills.
yeah.
But we were talking about language
yes.
and math, because those are probably, well, if we look at the 7 liberal arts, that's the
Which we've done an episode on.
we
with
have
you.
that's
Yes.
the natural division:
Mhm.
language, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and then the quadrivium: arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, music. And so those are the 2 areas. Those are the liberal, or what we might call liberating arts, because those allow us to pursue the truth. How to teach language? There's this term language arts, and I kind of don't like the term because very often musters up a lot of yucky stuff in people's mind. They think, oh man, okay, so there's phonics and spelling and reading and literature, and then there's grammar and composition and handwriting and public speaking. And, it's like you run out of fingers and you think, how do you teach all that stuff? So our company, we have a little tagline. So it's IEW. And the tagline is listen, speak, read, write, think. And the integration of those, because that's the more classical approach to thinking about arts of language. Listening, speaking, reading, writing. And what's the result? Better thinking. So listening, we do, as we read to our children, they improve their understanding. And that listening builds their vocabulary. It furnishes their mind with grammar and syntax. And if we're reading good and beautiful stuff, it's furnishing their mind with the beautiful uses of words, the schemes and tropes that make language so eloquent. And if we read scripture, of course, if we read kind of classics, and they can even be young children's. Classic doesn't have to be an old, thick, hard to read book. It can be Blueberries for Sal or Ping. They have a classic element to them.
So would you
Little
advise
House on the Prairie?
Little House on the Prairie.
That's a good one for suffering.
Yes, they had some hard times to live through.
Yeah. My girls are eating those up right now.
bet.
All the Little House books.
So would you advise though, like reading in chunks throughout the day, because kids sometimes
Sure, yeah.
how do we do that?
Well, see how it goes. Most families I know that do this successfully have kind of two reading times. One is morning and first thing, and we just all gather around. Mom has a cup of tea or coffee. The kids can draw or crochet or play with Legos, and Mom just, read for half an hour. And that just brings everyone in, and then they can go about the next step of whatever they want to do. And then in the evening, right? And if dads are home, they can, just get away from the screens, wait on the dishes, and read something to everybody. And if dad's reading a book that dad wants to read, he's enjoying it, then everybody's enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point.
That listening's so critical. Speaking, of course, children talk all the time. Talking is kind of a random verb. Everybody talks. Speaking, though, has a little more intentionality, right? You speak to someone. You speak about something. You train yourself to speak.
Right. You talk to yourself. You speak to others.
Good possibility.
Yeah.
So how have we done that traditionally? Well, one thing is memorizing beautiful stuff and reciting it. So one of the things we're giving away in our Lessons 2020 free promotion you mentioned at the beginning is level 1 of our poetry memorization program. And so it's all 20 poems, and it's the MP3 recordings of me reciting the poems. And children as young as 5 or 6 can learn and memorize poetry. You can supplement that with scripture. You can even use things like a Baltimore Catechism, right? And memorize questions and answers. And now you are furnishing the mind, like I said, not just with the words, not just with the syntax and the flow of the language, but with the ideas as well.
Yeah.
So, speaking and then there's some extensions on that. Older kids can memorize excerpts of famous speeches. That is a phenomenal thing to do. Boy, when you memorize an excerpt of a speech, it puts you in direct experience with that part of history. And then reading, of course, kids, read books, but you can read with your eyes, read with your ears, and writing. And that's our specialty, is how to help. When a child has to write something, it's insanely complicated. In fact, I once thought just the fact human beings can write is just proof of the existence of God. Like, it's so complicated, right? So you have to have an idea.
I know.
Yeah, how many muscles are involved?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have an idea. The idea has to exist either internally or externally. Then you have to speak that idea into existence. You actually have to kind of say what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Then you have to hear what you said yourself think, what you heard yourself say.
Yeah.
And then you have to remember what you heard yourself say to yourself. and hold it in your memory long enough to be able to write the first word and get some spelling or get some letters to spell it correctly.
Yeah.
And you got to continuously hold all of those variables. It's insanely complex. So, to teach that, really you want to be able to break it into small component parts. And that's what we specialize in.
Okay, so let's talk about music.
Music, yes. It's so interesting. Why is music one of the mathematical arts, right? Why is it in there with arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy? Well, because math itself is precisely mathematical.
Music is mathematical.
Yes. Music is precisely mathematical.
Yeah.
The vibrations themselves, the rhythmic structures,
Yeah.
The harmonics and the pitches, everything. We even use math terms when we talk about music.
Yeah.
Right? Frequency and half notes, quarter notes, and intervals, first, seconds, major thirds. But I think, unfortunately, so many people today have become music consumers rather than music
Totally.
Producers,
experiencers, creators,
Yeah.
And this is one thing I think that all of us could do better on. I don't know anybody who says, "Yep, I do this really well." And that's just having opportunity for your children to make music at home, and especially as a family. And obviously, every one of us has an instrument we carry around. It's totally free, right? And you use it all the time.
Some of them are broken, but you still got one.
And why should we not see a restoration of singing together? You mentioned John Senior.
Mm-hmm.
He talked a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
The importance of singing together. And it's hard, it takes a little discipline. You've got to say, okay, we're going to do this. We're not going to do something else. And here's the words. And we're going to learn this song. And we're going to sing it together.
But I noticed that it's easier. Like, it seems like we may have lost that skill because my kids, it comes very naturally to sing. My daughter will walk up and down the street pedaling, her little tricycle and singing.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Nonsense. You're just singing. But she's enjoying it. She's making, that's something that she just it comes naturally to her.
Yeah.
I don't do that any longer,
No,
right?
no.
I don't walk down the street and sing. Dave does that every once in a while, but I mean I don't, and so I may have lost at some point. I've lost that. That's something we probably need to gain back.
Yeah. I remember reading a biography of a woman who grew up in a Mormon family, and she went to college, and she was telling her roommate there that her family would gather around the piano and sing hymns every night. She grew up her whole childhood doing that. And as she was explaining it, you're like, okay, well, that was her world, but what an awesome thing for a family to do together. To learn to just sing hymns and maybe even learn to harmonize a little bit. It's going to take effort for, especially young dads today to make this happen. But I think the value would be overwhelming. And, and then if you've got some, piano or violin or something or early childhood music class, that's great too. But you don't have to spend a dime to start singing with your whole family.
Yeah. And there are so many beautiful hymns. You mentioned hymns.
Yeah.
There are so many forgotten hymns in our Catholic tradition that are stunningly beautiful.
Yes.
That would be so valuable for us even as adults
Absolutely.
to learn. And if teaching them to our children is the excuse we need to learn them ourselves, all the more better. Yeah.
Well, and that makes a nice kind of segue to a final point, which is, a lot of parents I meet who are homeschooling, either intentionally or accidentally, say, wow, it's like I'm getting the education now
that I always wanted.
I always wanted.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll tell Pamela, my wife, hey, maybe we should teach the girls this song next. And I'm saying it just because I want to know it.
Yes.
And I don't. And I know that hearing them sing it over and over again, I'll learn it. And so it's selfish, but.
Yeah.
So the people who are saying, okay, I go to IEW, do they need to go somewhere else specifically?
IEW.com/lessons 2020.
Lessons 2020.
And we got our free package there. And then any questions, you can chat or call our people at the office who are all working from home right now.
Yes.
And we will help you navigate through. the teaching of the arts of language at home.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Andrew,
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Good. All right. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
Do you want to see if we have any comments or questions?
C1. C.
Kathy asked if we're going to change where the camera sits in the studio when finished. Yes. Kathy, we are changing. This is still the phase 2. We did not get a chance to do a whole lot this week on the studio. But we will very soon have new cameras, new positions. It'll look, I think, very nice. So yes, that is an answer. Here's a question for you though. I had as we were talking about this. Okay, I agree. I need to start. I need to start singing more with my family. That doesn't come naturally to me. I'm a terrible singer. I can't carry a tune in a bucket.
I don't believe it.
Well, that's okay. You haven't heard me sing.
I might ask you to sing right now.
Yeah. But and so as the leader of the family, that's something that's going to be very uncomfortable for me. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with doing it. How do I start? What do I do? Like, what would you recommend me starting with?
Maybe like a C or a B flat.
I was thinking F sharp.
There's a lot of sharps in F sharp, just so you know.
That's typically where I
picked maybe the worst key.
If you're singing and there's no piano to worry about, it doesn't really matter.
I'd say C or G.
I would say, get some, like you said, traditional Catholic hymns.
Okay.
And
where do I get those?
Well,
do you know?
You
do you have any
probably,
idea? I mean,
probably
Google, where
here's
are
what
you getting them?
Okay, so I found some just the other day in the back of this novena book. It's a book. You know that St. Joseph shrine that we're past that you saw at my house the other day?
Yes.
Well, J. Thomas, he's got these old these novenas. At the back are a treasury of Catholic hymns. So we were going through it, and I found a whole bunch of them. Just buy some old prayer book and see what's in it.
You might actually be able to find PDFs of stuff like that online, too, because it's all older.
Yeah, but I'm not musically inclined. I'm not trained, so I'm looking at this stuff.
Ask your local Latin parish,
Yeah, sneak over to Precious Blood and look at the Adoramus hymnal there.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't know. I can look at that and say this is almost like speaking or looking at Latin.
No,
I don't know.
No, but they're English. There's English hymns.
I know, but what I'm saying
the
is
other
I don't know.
Thing is, if you can't read the notes,
right,
you can just go to YouTube and type in the name of the hymn, and 10 to 1, there's the Mormon Tabernacle Choir singing the thing.
That.
Right, yeah.
So I think there's enough help that you could get. Is your wife a little more musically inclined than you?
Sure. Well, I don't know.
Probably more than me.
You can play the guitar.
Yes.
You play the guitar?
Yes, but I mean, not well.
All right, well, fine. Then you got no problem. But there are lots of songs that we carry around in our brain just because we grew up in the church and singing them, and you see the words and the melody will just pop right back to you.
Right.
It's usually the words you forget before the melodies, and then if you just practice a little bit reading the notes in the hymnal, it'll remind you, okay, that goes up, that goes down. I think you could. I actually have a friend, he's a Protestant, but he has put together...
We don't hold it. He's a Protestant, but
he's put together a really wonderful family worship songbook. He actually is the guy who created Matthew C. If you're familiar with that curriculum, Steve Demme, wonderful man.
I've heard of it.
So that's something that could be had, and
okay.
I could probably find that, send one to you, or send you a link at least.
Okay.
But I think there's plenty of resources. If you combine what's at your church, if you can get in these days,
right?
What you can find online in terms of the words to the great hymns, and then if you need help with the melodies, just cheat.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we did to memorize the books of the Bible for my kids, we just made up as we went along.
A song to go with?
Yes. I mean, because that's how we knew it was going to be the easiest way to memorize it, so we made up a song. And there were times, because we were just adding 5 at a time, right? We'd add 5 books at a time every night and build off of that. And there were times at the end of that section of the 5, we were like, I don't know what's coming tomorrow, because we did not leave ourselves very much room to work with this, but we just kind of winged it, and so they know it. So I mean, it's not great, it's not beautiful, but they know the books of the Bible.
You've created music, you have composed.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess so.
You can do it, but it's just I think for a lot of people these days, it just feels awkward.
All right.
I mean, a lot of people just don't even sing in church too. You get a worship team or whatever, and you look and you see half the people, most of the men, are not singing along. They're just standing there waiting for it to be over. And that's kind of tragic, really.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I make a point to sing, even though I'm not very good at it, but because I want my boys to see that I'm singing, that I'm it's part of participation in Mass.
Yeah, you got to teach by example.
Yeah. Especially if you're playing music. I mean, singing is great, but playing music and singing, I mean, there's something really, like adding an instrument, just to me, it's just so much better.
Well, I agree with you, but if you were to make having an instrument the determining factor of whether you sing together.
Oh, yeah. No, not at all.
That would be a
not
mistake.
at all.
Here's just a funny little story. When we had a bunch of young kids, we remember the old days when phones had answering machines?
Right.
So we made a recording, and we all sang, and it went kind of like, hello, 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 hello. Oh, we are busy now, but we would like to say, if you will leave a message, we'll call you right away. Okay, so we sang this as a family, and one day my wife, there was like 100 messages, only nobody said anything.
It's just like listening and hanging.
They wanted to hear it.
It was my youngest daughter who kept calling our own phone number so she could hear the song that we sang into the message machine.
That's awesome.
So, and we always sing Grace, and so there's certain things that you can.
What do you sing at Grace?
Be present
at our table, Lord.
Yeah.
We sing that all the time.
And because I have a background, I can break off into a little harmony, and we've always got 2 octaves going because there's females and males. It actually sounds pretty good, and it's just like, okay, hey, that was a moment of beauty. And then hopefully, as your kids have opportunity, they can get into a choir. Being part of a choir is a tremendous experience for children. Musical theater is pretty awesome too. You guys know about the Catholic homeschool theater group?
Oh yeah.
The Classical Catholic Drama
phenomenal.
Club.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They've done a great job.
So-
Ken Henderson heads that up.
Yeah, wonderful.
Good guy, a good friend of ours. One of the things I also heard, like when you talking about in this episode, you said at the beginning of the day, reading for an hour and a half or an hour.
Yeah, half an hour, an hour. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be honest. I have never read an hour to my kids. Maybe I'm leaving them short. Maybe I'm thinking like.
Have your kids ever played with Legos or drawn pictures or stayed in one place for an hour?
Oh yes.
Then they can listen to you read for an hour.
And it's not like they have to sit there quietly with their hands in their laps. I mean, they can be
doing
Absolutely.
stuff.
doing something else.
Think about it. You listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I love audiobooks, but I do not sit and do nothing while listening to an audiobook.
Right.
I'm cooking my breakfast. I'm in the car. I'm driving. I'm doing something with my hands, and then that audiobook is just enriching my life at that moment. But to just sit in a chair and do nothing and listen, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
I just be like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That is a good
Let
point.
kids keep their hands busy, and you'll
and they'll still
notice.
remember it.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I do. I mean,
they have to stay quiet, but
Right.
but that's
But
no problem.
but you can stop. I mean, if someone has a good question, you can stop and talk about it. Or if there's a word that needs to define, you can stop and define the word. Or if there's an idiom or an allusion that they might not get, you could stop and say, "Oh, you know what? That is really interesting. I think what it means is blah 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 blah." So
yeah, sometimes it is funny. Like when you're reading, sometimes you'll say something and your kids will just start laughing. You know, just like that happens to me. Like it's an expression that you just is so familiar to you. It's not funny, but to them, they just think it's hilarious, you know, and because they don't get it. And I wish I could remember what it was, but that happened recently where they just started laughing. And then I thought about it. It's like, yeah, that is really funny. Thank you for laughing at that.
How old are your kids now, David?
4. Well, my oldest will be 5 in April.
5. Okay. Yeah. So
We read at the end of dinner.
Mm-hmm. That's a good time.
Just like the monks.
Yep. It's a good time.
Yeah. Because I'm always done before they are.
Did I ever tell you that hilarious story about when I ate lunch with the monks with a friend of mine?
No.
Okay. So you've had lunch with the monks.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they read, but they chant the whole thing.
Yeah, I
Right.
tried that, and the girls didn't like it.
No. So I had a friend of mine, Chris Perrin, who's big in the classical world, and we were doing talks together, and he came out to Clear Creek, and I took him to the monastery, and he loves monasteries. He's just... And so we're sitting there eating our soup, and they're reading this history book about, I think it was the Mexican Revolution or the Mexican-American War or something. It was just awful, grisly stuff. And so the reader is chanting, and so Colonel Sanchez went into the place where the prisoners were kept, and then he took out his knife and cut off one ear from each of the prisoners, right? And then he strung the ears on his string of many ears, which he kept about his neck. And you're like, this is like unbelievably violent and gross, only it's this weird non-emotional chant.
Right.
And I'm sitting there trying to eat lentil soup or whatever. I'm
Right,
just-
and trying not to laugh. Things are so funny when they're chanted. I'm telling you, every time I go there, like, yeah, when they do history, the first time I was ever there, they were chanting something about Abraham Lincoln freeing the slaves. And I was like, trying not to like,
laugh, yeah.
don't look at, like, I just remember thinking, like, don't look at anybody else.
just
Don't
eat.
do it.
Just put food in your mouth, yeah.
Like, and then Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and there was much rejoicing, and the people, you know, like,
Yeah.
were...
So I had this theory about why they do this.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, why do they do this?
Yeah.
And I thought, it's about humility and no one being better, right? Because some people would naturally read better
Sure.
than other people, right? And if you had a good reader, well, he could get all puffed up about being a better reader, and if you had a worse reader, right? So I thought, this is just this totally levels the field. Like, if everybody just does it this way, nobody's better than anyone else. So it's a point of humility. And so I'm working my theory. So I finally go to Father Bethel. I said, so I have a theory. Why do you chant when you do readings at meals?
What do you say? Well, it's just what it says. To do.
No. And I said, this is my theory. And he goes, no, nothing like that. I said, so why do you do it? And he goes, well, you know, a long time ago, they didn't have microphones or speakers or amplification, and the chant just carried through the hall a lot better. So we just do it the way they always did.
See, I was. My theory was that,
Very Benedictine answer.
Yeah.
you know how you remember stuff when it's music.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
all of a sudden, you're kind of bridging. You're now doing that. So I think your memory. That was my theory, that they've discovered memory retention was a lot higher. But
Possibly, but
obviously, I'm wrong too. Yeah,
just-
overthinking it.
but
Do
No.
what they did.
because it carries through the hall better
Yeah.
when 1,000 years ago.
Why do that? That's just the way we've always done it. Yeah.
The typical
Monks.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that IEW.com /
Yeah.
what was the slash again?
Lessons 2020.
I'll link that in the show notes as
Super.
well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Sweet.
So, thanks again.
Yeah,
bud.
we've had over 7,000 downloads of this.
Awesome.
Nice.
Killer.
So we're hoping
Good.
for, I mean, if we even get like a 20% conversion rate, we're happy.
Sure, absolutely.
But
Yeah, that
So-
would be a lot.
so far all the feedback has been super positive. And
Awesome.
how old's your oldest?
Almost 7.
7.
He'll be 7 in June.
Gosh, he looked older in that picture.
I know.
I would have thought he's like 10.
And he's eating like he's a 10-year-old.
Yeah, okay.
It is crazy. Dude, he had 4 pancakes and like 6 pieces of bacon and fruit and hash browns this morning.
Nice.
Like,
Hey, it takes a lot of food to catch fish.
I was like, he's eating more than I am. Like, he is eating a lot of food. and sleeping longer. So he's growing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So
Nice.
very
Congratulations.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. That's
So
a blast.
I